Every tribe on Obsidian has the same origin story, the same apocrypha retold with new names and a liberal dose of superstitious paranoia. That once our people came from the stars, that our homeworld was lost, swallowed by Wormwood, and the ancestors built the arks in a last desperate gasp, releasing them to the sky like so many seeds in the wind. That sin brought the great ship to ground, that the people of the ark, so roughly deposited on the soil of an alien planet, farmed and fought and prayed and plotted so they might rule this new world and remake it in their own image. Wormwood is a card game where each player controls a burgeoning far future society at the brink of war. You will build an empire from the ground up, starting with one of 8 unique factions. The culture you choose is represented by a citadel, a faction leader, 30 unique cards, and 20 echoes. Your goal is to collect echoes in any way you can. If you ever possess 10 scored echoes, you immediately win the game. Your faction card represents the leader of your faction and has a special ability unique to your ideology. Your Citadel card represents the heart of your civilization, built around an ancient technology known as the Forge. The Citadel card is the holding place for idle citizens you control. Units will defend your cards and allow you to steal echoes from your opponents. Units have a subtype and 3 attributes: attack, armor, and health. Attack and armor determine strength in battle and are indicated on the left side of the card. A unit's health is represented by the number of tokens placed on the card by its owner when revealed from the Forge, up to its listed maximum. Facilities can be worked by your citizens and offer permanent growth to your civilization. Augments are attached to your cards to make them stronger or hinder your enemies. Finally, reflexes grant you instant effects at any time, even during an opponent's turn. Citizens serve as your primary resources in Wormwood, necessary for every activity from working facilities to drafting military units. The pool of citizens all players recruit from is called the Creche. Citizens are split into 2 castes, golden talents on one side and gray drones on the other. Each player selects a faction deck. Each player receives 20 echoes and shuffles them into their deck. The deck is then placed on the table with the faction card to the left and Citadel card to the right. Place all citizen tokens in a shared pile to form the Creche. Now, choose a first player. The first player receives 1 drone on their Citadel. The second player receives 2 drones, and so on, up to the number of players. Finally, all players draw 8 cards from their deck. Starting with the first player, there are 6 phases to each turn. We'll go over each in order. At the beginning of each turn, you'll take 2 talents from the Creche and place them on your Citadel. This concludes the growth phase. The upkeep phase is when you will be taking citizens back to your Citadel after they have completed their tasks. On your first turn, there will be nothing to upkeep, so we'll revisit this phase after explaining the others. The Forge serves as a secret construction zone for cards which have yet to meet their Forge costs, shown here. Cards are played face down from your hand into the Forge and are built by citizens from your Citadel. To play a card into the Forge and start construction, you must place an available talent from your Citadel onto the first space of the Forge track on the back of the card. Players track progress of a card in the Forge by advancing the talent token clockwise along the track until it reaches the space equal to its Forge cost. You will advance each Forge talent 1 space during your upkeep phase. You may accelerate construction exhausting any number of talents in your Citadel by flipping them to their drone sides to advance a Forge talent 1 space each during your Forge phase. Note that while echoes are played into the Forge like every other card, echoes may never be completed in a single turn. Even if paid for fully, An echo may not be forged until your next upkeep phase. Once a card meets its forge cost, you may reveal it, playing it face up in the appropriate area of your colony. If it is not an echo, exhaust its talent by returning it as a drone to the citadel. If the card is an echo, the talent returns to your citadel unflipped, and the echo is immediately scored. A card's forge talent may move past its forge cost. If this happens, you may choose to move the forge talent up in the usual manner, to bluff an echo, for example. Or you may move the talent to the center of the card to indicate the card's cost has been paid. Cards may remain in the forge for as long as you wish, but you may only reveal them during your forge phase. Depending on the card type, completed cards will be played in different areas of the colony. Place completed facilities to the left of your faction card and other completed facilities in play. Units must be placed in the rearmost position of a lane of your choice, closest to the citadel or faction, respectively. When placing a unit in a lane, you must add health tokens in the form of idle citizens to the card. Attach completed augments to a unit or a facility, consistent with the augment's type. Place completed echoes face up in a pile above your deck to score it. Note that reflexes are a special card type that are played directly out of your hand, and therefore will never be played into the forge. The lanes in front of your citadel and faction card defend the echoes in your forge and hand, respectively. These lanes may also serve you offensively during your battle phase to attack an opponent in hopes of scoring echoes they may be hiding. To attack an opponent during your battle phase, choose the lane you wish to attack from. You may only attack with one lane per turn. Choose any number of units from front to back of the lane to attack with. Then choose an opponent's lane to attack either their citadel to breach their forge or their faction to breach their hand. Line up the card's attack and defense values to assist in damage resolution. Players resolve damage separately for each pair of attacking and defending cards in combat rounds. Each attacking unit must breach the armor value of a card separately. For every point of damage a unit takes above its armor value, discard a health token from the wounded unit to the creche. All damage is simultaneous. If a unit is ever reduced to 0 health, it is immediately discarded into its owner's scrap pile at the end of the current combat round. Defender has the advantage. Each attacking unit deals combat damage only once, to the first surviving unit in the defending lane. Defending units, on the other hand, deal full damage to each attacker. Repeat for each attacker in lane order. If you have surviving attackers at the end of the round, each attacker will have breached the defender's forge or hand, respectively. When you breach either enemy lane, the results depend on whether there are surviving enemy defenders. If there are still enemy units in the lane, you can look at one card for each attacking unit you still have. But if there are no defenders left, you can look at as many cards as you have total attack power. If you are breaching the faction lane, you get to secretly look at this number of random cards from your opponent's hand. Any echoes you find will immediately score, then return the remaining cards back to them. If you don't find any echoes, you can choose one card you saw to be scrapped. If you are breaching the forge lane, you can secretly look at this number of face-down cards in their forge. Again, any echoes you find are yours to score, and the forge talent is returned to their citadel. Anything that isn't an echo is returned to their forge untouched, with the forge talent in the same position as before. After combat is resolved, surviving attacking units are returned to their original lane in the same order they had before combat. After battle, you may move one unit you control up or down by one space in its lane, or move it to the back of your other lane. A unit's position in its lane will affect its abilities as well as the order in which it attacks. At the end of your turn, draw cards up to your hand limit of 8. Then gameplay advances to the next player's turn. Now that there are some cards in the forge and facilities in play, we can talk more about upkeep. During upkeep, you first remove one citizen from each facility and from your faction card, placing them back on your citadel. Discard any reflexes you control and return their citizens to your citadel. Unless specified by a card, citizens returned to the citadel during upkeep do not flip. Then, advance all talents on cards in your forge by 1 space. If you reach the forge cost to complete any of these cards, you may reveal them during your forge phase. The moment a player scores 10 echoes, they win. In the next section, we'll take a look at the different card types in more detail. Players forge units and deploy them into one of 2 lanes to defend either their forge or their hand. Units may attack other players to steal echoes from their hand or forge. Only 3 units may occupy any one lane at a time. A unit's health is represented by the number of tokens placed on the card and discarded to the creche when the unit takes damage. If a unit ever has 0 health tokens, it is immediately discarded to its owner's scrap pile. Facilities have special abilities that you may activate by working the card at any time with idle citizens. Facilities specify a number of talents or drones required to activate the ability. You may place more than the required amount of citizens on the facility to trigger the ability multiple consecutive times. Facilities have one of 2 types of abilities. If the ability shows a number of talent or drone icons followed by a colon, the ability will trigger as soon as the player places enough citizens of the required type from the citadel onto the empty facility. To use triggered abilities again, you must first completely empty the facility of its citizens. Since you may only return 1 citizen from each facility to your citadel per upkeep phase, it will often take multiple cooldown turns to reset your facility. If the ability shows an arrow, the ability remains active as long as at least the requisite number of citizens remains on the facility card. You may leave citizens on these facilities for as long as you wish, and remove 1 per upkeep phase if desired. Just like with triggered abilities, the abilities on these facilities stack if you use more citizens. Your faction card functions just like a facility. After successfully forging an augment, you may attach it to a unit or facility specified on the augment to provide it with a permanent ability. You may attach an augment to any player's card, not just cards you control. Players may play reflexes from the hand at any time, during any player's turn, and they are the only cards that do not enter the forge. Reflexes take effect immediately. As soon as you move a number of citizens of the same type, either all talents or all drones, from your citadel onto the reflex equal to the card's cost. Reflexes last until the beginning of your next upkeep phase, at which point you must discard the reflex and return its citizens to your citadel unchanged. This is plenty of information to get you through your first game, though we recommend someone reading through the rulebook ahead of time, just in case. The game can be played with 2 players, but we suggest your first game should be with a group of 3 or 4, with everyone learning how to play together, each with a different set of cards. You'll see tense diplomacy, temporary alliances, and unique strategies. Welcome to Wormwood.